We're living in an era where a determined minority is doing everything in its power to try to destroy our democracy, 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 democracy for their own agenda.
Joe Biden referenced democracy nearly 30 times during his 30-minute speech on the anniversary of the Capitol riot of January 6th.
Democracy.
Invoking George Washington, the president argued that Donald Trump is on the brink of overturning an American democratic order that has survived since 1789.
Democracy, democracy, democracy.
He raised the specter of an American democracy that, in his word, falls.
He's willing to sacrifice our democracy, put himself in power.
Surveying the record of his 3 years in office, Mr. Biden has decided his reelection turns on two events: the Capitol riot of 2021 and Mr. Trump's effort to reverse the 2020 presidential election results in several states. Mr. Biden intends to posit these two events 3 years on as a threat to our democracy.
Democracy is on the ballot.
But mere days after the Biden speech, a glum citizen Trump was seated in the D.C. Circuit Court, listening to three appellate judges express doubts about his claims of unfettered presidential immunity for anything he did or said on January 6th.
When they talk about threat to democracy, that's your real threat to democracy.
As to the efforts to overturn the 2020 election results, a Biden speechwriter seems to have slipped some facts into his Valley Forge speech.
Trump's claims about the 2020 election never could stand up in court. Trump lost 60 court cases. 60. Trump lost the Republican-controlled states. Trump lost before a Trump-appointed judge, and then judges. And Trump lost before the United States Supreme Court.
And yet, according to Mr. Biden, after some 150 million Americans vote in 2024, we could become North Korea.
This beautiful child, this young man, how old is he, 3? I would vote for him over Biden because he's more intelligent. Look, the kid's 3 years old.
I don't think Mr. Trump is destroying our democracy, but I do blame him for destroying our political language with way over-the-top statements that have infected the rhetoric of the current president. Worse still, both men understand the power of repetition in our politics.
Democracy, democracy, democracy.
Say the same thing ad nauseum, and people begin to think it might be true.
We believe that they pose an existential threat to democracy, and over the last 4 years, that threat to democracy has only grown.
An Associated Press NORC poll last month said 62% of Americans believe U.S. democracy could be at risk in the November election. This dire sentiment indicates the extent to which the political focus in the United States has become nationalized. What happens in Washington matters, but in recent years, politicians have made it the central theme. In 2016, it was Hillary Clinton.
He is threatening our democracy.
In the run-up to 2020, it was Nancy Pelosi.
We're in a battle to save our democracy.
Elections for governor in 50 states come and go with few complaints about their legitimacy. Legislation simply passes or doesn't, and life goes on. One exception, Georgia's Stacey Abrams, a leading propagator of the failed democracy idea.
I knew something had gone horribly wrong. The system that is supposed to protect our democracy didn't work the way it was supposed to.
A broader idea behind the Our Democracy complaint is that something called the will of the people is being thwarted.
The alternative democracy is dictatorship.
After his D.C. court appearance Tuesday, Mr. Trump sent out a fundraising email that says, in November, the people of our country vote out the tyrants. Tighten the bolts on your doors when politicians start putting the people's will in motion.
We all know who Donald Trump is. Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, 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 Trump.
Aside from the numerous democracy references in his Valley Forge speech, Joe Biden summoned Trump more than 40 times.
Trump, 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 Donald Trump, 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 Donald Trump, 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 Trump. Trump's Trump, Trump's Trump, Donald Trump, Trump, Trump's Trump.
Unmentioned is that what really worried George Washington was unrestrained partisan intensity. Today, we'd call it democracy on steroids. As always, it falls to America's voters to sort it all out. They, the people, don't need to be reminded of that.